Hi, everyone. This is Michelle Gramoglia, the President and CEO here at Woodland Pond, and this is my weekly address for a Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, June 27th, 2023, and I have quite a few updates for today. So I'll start with some calendar items. Starting with today, we have quite a few things on the calendar for this afternoon. If you have not attended a health center committee meeting, we do have a health center committee meeting today at 1 o'clock on the calendar. All of our health, not just health center committee, but all of our committee meetings here on campus are open to all residents. I always like to remind folks of that. And I know that sometimes people think that maybe a committee meeting might be closed just to the committee members or specially invited guests. That is not the case. You are able to go to any committee meeting that you would like to go to. The Health Center committee meetings do cover a lot of topics. The current chair, Margaret Nyhouse, does an excellent job of keeping the committee meeting going really smoothly, but there are a lot of topics covered. And today I know that both Philip and myself will both be in attendance. So if you're interested in items that might be covered by the Health Center Committee, including things like dining related issues, activity related issues, things that are covered by the various residence councils of the Health Center Committee, you certainly can attend that meeting today. That will be in the classroom at 1 o'clock today. We also have a family council meeting for the Health Center today on Zoom and in the classroom. Now, this is just for family members of those of you that live in the health center. So this is something actually that the Department of Health really looks for facilities and communities to have. This is an opportunity for the family members, again, only family members. So this is not for residents and this is not for non-residents, but this is for family members of the residents in skilled nursing, assisted living, and Garden View. We put this out on the listserv yesterday, and there's been paper invitations kind of up all over the health center for some time now. But this is an opportunity for a 1 hour or less, depending on how many issues or topics get raised. But it's just an avenue for family members to bring up suggestions, ask questions, these kinds of things. It's in addition to the residence councils that we have, the health center committees. It's really typical for communities that aren't CCRCs. So we already have lots of different advocacy opportunities here on campus because we are a CCRC. But for those individual standalone assisted livings or skilled nursings, this is how those organizations would normally do this. So we always had a family council prior to COVID, and we're bringing it back because DOH doesn't necessarily understand the CCRC construct and the fact that we have the health center committees and lots of different avenues. So we are bringing it back. It's probably going to be a little bit duplicative to all of the various advocacy efforts that we already have. So we may find that it's duplicative, but we are going to be bringing it back. So if you are a family member of a health center resident and you want to attend that, you can go ahead and contact me and I can send you that Zoom link, or you can attend in the classroom. I suspect going forward, we will do this solely over Zoom, simply because our hybrid capability is not great. And I think those in the room are going to find it a little bit diluted, but we're going to try it out as a hybrid option today. Also tonight at 7 p.m. in the PAC, we have a presentation by Kapawa and Richard. Richard's wife, Catherine, will be reading two stories, Charles by Shirley Jackson and The Veldt by Ray Bradbury. And they will be short stories about children. So that's play reading at 7 p.m. in the PAC tonight. Some more calendar items. We have on Thursday night of this week, you can always look at your calendar, but Thursday night, all residents here at the community have been invited by the Woodcrest community members. They're in Riften at the Bruderhof to attend a wonderful evening reception with cocktail hour and refreshments, live music, and then dinner, followed by music and fellowship there at the community. You should have signed up with concierge. If you do plan on attending that, transportation will be provided. For those that are not attending that reception there at the Bruderhof, the dining rooms will all be open as usual, and you would follow your normal reservation protocols if you are dining in the main dining room on Thursday night, and your normal protocols if you're dining in any of the health center dining rooms. Tomorrow, which is Wednesday at 3 p.m., Tom Gilder and the Residents Council are putting on a fantastic presentation about the composition and the responsibilities of the Woodland Pond Board of Directors. I mentioned this last week. I have seen the PowerPoint presentation and the contents, and this is going to be jam-packed full of lots of information. You will learn more about the board, the inner workings of the incorporation of Woodland Pond, and all kinds of things. So if you want to know all about how it all works and how the board operates, who's on the board, please do plan on attending that tomorrow at 3 p.m. That will be streamed on WPTV channel 1340, and it will be recorded, as my understanding. So you will definitely want to catch that. Friday, in the PAC, we have a blood drive. We are holding these regularly now. This is one of our community partnerships that we're very proud of. But just a reminder that because the PAC will be contained with the blood drive on Friday, Deborah's yoga class at 10 o'clock will happen in the classroom, and Simple Melodies, which usually happens on Friday afternoon, actually is scheduled to be the Starlight Trio, which is Larry Bush, Susan Griss, and Len Kobrinsky. That's going to actually happen in the courtyard at 3 p.m. on Friday. Rain will put that in the game room if it's rainy on Friday. Okay, I think those are the calendar-y type items. Oh, one more calendar-y type item, which is for next week. The shred day, we talked about this a couple of addresses ago. We have a board member, Mark Shane, who arranges for a complimentary shredding truck to come each year, and that's going to be on the 3rd of July, which is Monday, from 10 a.m. till 12 p.m. So 2 hours. You'll be able to bring all of your documents that you need shredded down to by concierge. If you need help with bringing your shredding documents down, go ahead and let us know. You can call concierge for that. But this is a really good opportunity for you to declutter. You don't need to do anything special with the documents. You're just going to dump them into this truck. And once they go in there, nobody can access them. So you don't have to mark anything off. You don't have to redact anything. You literally can just take everything, bank statements, tax returns, whatever, and just dump them into the truck. And then they're going to get shredded by this company. Mark is a CPA. So he's very well aware of, you know, the importance of confidentiality. He would never do anything that puts your stuff at risk. He also knows that you have accumulated a lot of papers over the years, and he also knows that when you have time to move out of your apartment for any reason, or your cottage or your home, that you don't want to deal with those papers, and neither does your family. So he's giving you an opportunity here to offload a lot of that stuff. So let us help you do that, please. We're happy to do that. This is a really good opportunity for you to really declutter. You don't need to keep the vast majority of those papers. At this point, the bulk of what you have in there can probably be obtained online, but even if not, you probably don't need to keep most of it. So if you have questions about what you do need to keep and what you don't need to keep, you can ask me, you can ask Christy, you can look it up online. But it's a really good time to get rid of a lot of that stuff. But don't get rid of things like your birth certificate, your marriage license, those kinds of things you want to keep. But that's going to be on July 3rd. Let's see, in the newsletter next week, Woodland Life, you are going to see a reference to a lawsuit. You're going to see that in Dick Barry's piece in the board of directors section, and he's going to reference that I was, when I was out of the office working remotely, a week before last, that I was participating in a trial that was related to a liability lawsuit, and just a brief comment on that. So Woodland Pond has been very, very fortunate in that, although we have been in operations in the healthcare space, I know we talk a lot about, retirement and senior living and hospitality. We do all of those things. But at the end of the day, we are very much a healthcare provider. And as such, we are subject to the same kinds of liability risks as any other healthcare provider, especially in the institutional or inpatient setting. So just as you would expect, you hear about it all the time. Hospitals, doctors, surgeons constantly are getting sued. Woodland Pond has been exceedingly fortunate. We are very careful. We have very, very, very rarely faced any kind of lawsuits in any capacity, less than a handful in 14 years of all types, whether they're employment related or medical related or anything. But periodically folks do have accidents on this campus, and there are people that are prone to seek damages related to liability. And of course, we've got lots of insurance policies and coverages and protection and things like that. But we had a lawsuit filed against us for liability related to a resident that had fallen in the health center many, many years ago. And it's been working its way through the legal system for many years. This goes back to 2017, actually. And our attorneys, based on the merits of the case, had wanted to have this go to trial right from the start. They really felt that, there was no merit to the claim. Of course, we had some anxiety related to this because, of course, anytime you take something to a jury, which this ultimately did go to a jury, there's risk, even if the merits are strong. But the claim did go to a jury in the Ulster County Courthouse a couple of weeks ago, and it did go fully all the way to a verdict. Although the judge is always, trying to get the parties to settle, midway through. And ultimately the jury did decide in Woodland Pond's favor very quickly. Actually, they came to a verdict only after having the case for 25 minutes. They had the case all week. They heard the testimony on both sides, and ultimately decided in our favor that there was no liability, no negligence. So there was, no negligence on Woodland Pond's part, no liability. And so, they ruled in our favor. So you will see reference to that. And I just wanted to mention that. So again, this has happened. This is only the first time this has ever happened. Woodland Pond has never, had any kind of a lawsuit go in front of a jury in 14 years. It happens exceedingly rarely. But I did just want to mention that, and obviously we're thrilled that it went in our favor, and we're glad that it's behind us. So there's the information on that. There will be no weekly address next week. Tuesday is the 4th of July, so we won't have a weekly address next week. I will not be in the office. And actually, incidentally, we're in summer now. The kids are out of school for a lot of us. You will start to see summer vacations. So folks' schedules will be sort of starting to be chopped up for vacations and things like that. So, just look for our out of office messages and things like that as the weeks go on throughout the summer. Okay, let's see. Some interesting things to be thinking about. We are going to be undertaking a cataloging of all of the art that is hanging throughout the community. I think you all know that the Design and Decor Committee is responsible for hanging the art all over the hallways. And we are going to be undertaking a cataloging of all of the art, making sure that we know who it was provided by, who owns it. So whether or not the donor is still with us, whether or not it's been donated to Woodland Pond. Some of those records have been lost over the years. So we're going to be doing a systematic process to go through identifying the pieces, working with the Design and Decor Committee to do that, and then identifying whether or not the piece now belongs to Woodland Pond. So to that end, if you have pieces in your hallway and they are not labeled with one of those, little markers, the little sign, if you can start thinking about, if you know the pieces in your hallway and you know the origin of the piece, please start making notes on those. If you have Post-its or little pieces of paper, if you can start, identifying who the artist is, if you know who the owner is, or if you know that if it's donated to Woodland Pond, if you can get a jump start on that, that would be great. Otherwise, the Design and Decor Committee will be contacting the folks in each hallway on a systematic process here as the summer goes on. And then we're going to start cataloging those. So that's going to be exciting. And then we're going to go from there. And hopefully in a few months, we'll have all of that process done. But you can get a jump start on that on a rainy day and start helping us figure out the mystery that is some of this art. Okay, the next exciting thing, our board had a retreat last week, our annual retreat, and we talked a lot about future looking plans. We talked a lot about strategic planning. We talked a lot about needing to update our mission statement. We talked a lot about possible expansion. We talked about obviously the need to renovate the campus and what the next steps for all of those things are. So it was a lot of forward-looking discussion. And what are the next steps in some of these processes? So there is going to need to be a lot of resident involvement in a lot of these things. And, we're going to need to obviously engage residents in a systematic way, just like we're going to be doing a systematic process for the art identification. We can't have, all 350 people in every meeting, all 350 residents, and we can't have all of the 265 staff members and the families. And so we're going to have to do this very systematically. So as we go through each of these steps, we are going to be reaching out probably through the residents' councils and through the various committees to say, okay, we're going to need, 3 residents to sit on a task force for, let's say, the skilled nursing solarium project, for lack of a better name for that project. Or we're going to need, 3 residents to sit on an advisory committee for the interior design refurbishment, or the mission statement project. So, as we're going through these things, if there's a specific thing that really speaks to you, and let's say that you're not necessarily on one of those committees, or something that maybe you're not necessarily involved with one of those task force, you can certainly come to me and say, listen, I know I'm not on this committee necessarily, but I'm really interested in learning more about or wanting to have input on, let's say, the Gardenscape project. If we're going to expand the garden behind skilled nursing and assisted living. So can I please participate in this? We're not necessarily going to be able to say yes to everyone, again, because we can't have all 350 residents in a room, but we want to hear opinions, we want to hear voices, and we're going to try to be as transparent as possible about limitations on why we can't do certain things with certain projects, where funding is coming from for these things, if we have to, borrow with the bondholders, for example, or what the DOH approval processes are going to be on these things. But there is going to be obviously progress happening on campus. We're 14 years old. We obviously need a facelift in certain places. but we also have strategic things that are going to be happening. So it's an exciting time. There's going to be some, some serious dynamics happening. And we're getting poised to do a lot of those things. So just specifically this week, you're going to see, or if you're around, you're going to see that the interior design firm that we selected about a year ago through the proposal process, they are coming back. They will be here Thursday. There are absolutely no decisions or any such things happening on Thursday. This is just the first meeting we're having again back with them on campus since they were selected. And all we are doing on Thursday is just regrouping. So to kind of really look at, what is the breadth of what needs to be accomplished here. And then we're going to talk to them about timing. And then eventually they're going to come back to us, hopefully in 4 to 6 weeks, with a scope of the project and a proposed budget. And once we have a budget for, what they think it's going to cost us to refurbish the existing campus, then, it will be our responsibility to work with the board to understand how something like that gets financed. And then at that point, once it's time to start making individual decisions about, design work for individual spaces on campus, let's say for the path or to maybe move some walls around, that's when we will start to engage residents and staff into those focus groups. So there's no decision making at this time. So there's no focus groups being formed just yet, but you will start to see those meetings coming onto calendar. So that's some exciting stuff. We also have received from the architect the preliminary design sketch, and I mean very preliminary, and I will show it to you. It's literally just a sketch, very sketch of a proposed removal of some walls and addition of some other walls to bring outside light into skilled nursing. And our team is meeting internally, just leadership, to talk about what the team thinks about that proposal from the architect on Friday of this week. So again, these are things to move, forward with some exciting stuff on campus. This is a project that has been discussed for years and years. Skilled nursing is very dark. There is no outside light at all except in the resident rooms. And we have an opportunity before us, which coincides nicely with the thought process that interior design work and refurbishment needs to happen. This design had to happen from the architect first because we needed to know from a fire code and health and safety perspective what would be approvable under fire code and under Department of Health code. No design decisions are made in terms of elements of design. That's the kind of thing that would involve resident and constituent input, and we're not there yet, but we need to make sure that from an operations perspective, now that this is architecturally approvable, we need to make sure that operationally this would be approvable. Is it within sight line of the nurses station in an acceptable way? Does it provide for what the nursing staff would need? Does it make sense from a flow perspective? And then from there, this is when we would start to create a task force, let's say with residents, staff members, and so forth. So all of these things happen incrementally, but again, these are things that are starting to move forward. So this is exciting. That meeting is happening on Friday. And then we will start to talk about, pulling residents in maybe from health center committee, skilled nursing residents council, and so forth. So start to kind of get your ears ready to be potentially understanding that there might be opportunities for involvement on that project. And that actual schematic design work is actually being financed by the benefit fund. So when folks are asking, well, what does the benefit fund do? That sketch drawing and some additional work by the architect is being funded by the benefit fund. So you make your contributions to the Woodland Pond Benefit Fund. This is a project that's going to be specifically benefit the residents in skilled nursing, and the preliminary design work is being funded by the benefit fund. So really, really helpful. Some other things that are going on. That we're preparing for this county-wide multi-agency emergency preparedness drill in October. And in order to do that, we really had to assess and analyze a lot of the aspects to the safety conditions on campus. And we've been working with a lot of safety agencies here in Ulster County. And we've made some decisions on investing in our safety infrastructure. And we have, made some, as I said, some real investments, and some things are really going to start to kind of come to fruition here. Working with local law enforcement, we have decided to enhance our camera system on the exterior of the building, and you will start to see some additional cameras being installed in the lobbies, the main entrances, and on the exteriors of the campus, which we don't currently have. These will allow us to have visual capability via cameras on the parking lots, the entrances. These will be web-based, and these will be installed within the next couple of months, if not sooner. Those have been approved for purchase, and obviously this is not an inexpensive investment, but very important and well needed. So that is coming out of the preparation for this drill. The other thing that we have decided to invest in, and this has been discussed for a long time, but again, we have had to decide, is this the kind of thing that we think is a good investment? And we've decided this time that it's time to do this. We will be installing panic buttons at both concierge and reception. These will be discreetly installed under counter panic buttons that will automatically, when pressed, contact emergency service personnel to let them know that Woodland Pond has a risk on campus, and will automatically deploy police response. So we do not currently have these, but this would be something that as soon as an emergency is detected, a threat is detected, that someone at the front desk will be able to press that button, and without making a phone call, that will deploy police by contacting 911. So these things are not inexpensive, as I said, but these are things that we think will help enhance safety on campus, not because we have a specific threat, but because we are doing threat assessments as we're preparing for this drill. And we think that these are all things that will help keep this campus even safer than it already is. The last thing I want to mention, again, as we continue to make investments in the campus and move things forward, I think you all know at this point that we have a over $500,000 investment in the three major HVAC heating and cooling elements that are in the main corridors in south, central, and north wings. They are not all non-working at this time. The only one that's not working is south. But because of mobilizing and efficiencies of purchasing at the same time, so economies of scale, we did decide to go ahead and purchase all of them at the same time, and we will be replacing them all at the same time this summer. When we do so, and this will be happening over the next 6 weeks or so, we're just waiting on the delivery dates for these units. We are going to have to evacuate certain parts of the wings on the days when the cranes are here, and you will have ample notice. But the reason being that we have to actually remove the existing HVAC units and replace the units that are going to be going in, and they're extremely heavy. And because of the crane operation, there is risk to the residents that reside underneath those rooftop units because they're in the roofing above you. So we will be evacuating for safety reasons on the days that those operations happen. So I just want to let you know that there will be notices going out for that. And that's going to be coming up in the coming week. So just, kind of be aware of that as well. So that is the update for this week. That was a lot of things, I know, but we have a lot going on all the time. And I always like to be transparent, let you know. I'm here for the rest of this week. If you have anything that you need or want from me, you know how to get in touch with me. And I hope you're well. Thank you.